So the next veggie forward dish I'm making is curry pumpkin soup, and it uses a little bit of an unconventional ingredient. More on that in a minute. I'm gonna start on the soup now, and I've got some olive oil in a pot, so I'm gonna add onions, always a good start, and garlic, always a good start, another good start, and incredible flavor, fresh minced ginger. Love, love fresh ginger. Okay, so I'm gonna sprinkle in a good amount of curry powder. You can basically use whatever curry powder, curry mix that you like. This is just kind of good basic curry powder sold in American supermarkets. All right, now I'm gonna stir this around and add some salt. And then I want these onions to start cooking and the curry powder to sort of wake up. So I'm gonna let this cook for about 2 minutes. I'm gonna stir the whole entire time. Okay, the onions have been cooking. So I'm gonna add the pumpkin to the pumpkin soup. I am using canned pureed pumpkin. But listen, this is nothing but pureed pumpkin. It is not pumpkin pie filling. It's not sweetened. It doesn't have any spices or sugar or anything in it. It's just good old pumpkin. And I am telling you, my mother-in-law Nan and I did an experiment one year where we actually roasted fresh pumpkins and then took out the filling and pureed it and used it for pumpkin pie. And we actually preferred the canned pumpkin better. All right, I'm just letting the pumpkin mix with the onions, and then I'm gonna add a whole bunch of veggie broth. What I love about this soup is that if you have canned pumpkin in your pantry, you can basically whip it up anytime. And then I want to add some creaminess, so I'm using coconut milk. I shook it up really well before I opened the can because coconut milk in the can really separates. So you need to just sit there and get your exercise and mix it up. Spoonful of brown sugar. Goodness. And then just a little bit of cinnamon, not too much. That doesn't make it taste like a dessert or a baked good. It just adds a tiny bit of interest and toastiness, I guess, to the soup. All right, look at this, Alex. Do you want to take a little closer look? And the cool thing is the pumpkin is already totally pureed, so you get this velvety, creamy soup. Okay, I'm gonna bring this to a boil and cook it for just a few minutes, and that's gonna give me time to make a really delicious topping for the soup. I love toppings. I can't just serve up soup and call it good. I have to have little sprinkles to put on top of it. It's just roasted pumpkin seeds, chopped cilantro, chopped parsley, some olive oil, a pinch of turmeric, salt, all mixed together. Ooh, look at this. Now you don't have to add the olive oil. You can keep it all dry if you want to, but I love kind of coating them, and it's kind of this delicious kind of glistening topping on top of the soup. All right, so I'm just gonna let this soup heat up, and then I'm gonna serve it up, and then I'm gonna heat it up. Gobble it up is more like it. Okay, soup's on. This is a gorgeous soup. All right, it's very, very thick too, which I love. But you can thin it if you want a slightly thinner texture. You can just add more vegetable broth until it gets to the consistency that you like. Yum! And the topping. And it's kind of elegant. It could be like a first course if you're having a fancy dinner party. Or it can just be lunch. Curry pumpkin soup. So easy. Takes no time at all. And man, is it scrumptious. And hot. Bolognese over spaghetti squash. So I'm going to start by sauteing some vegetables for the bolognese. Plenty of salt and pepper. And then I'm also gonna add some crushed red pepper flakes just to make sure it has a little bit of heat to it. And now all I need to do is stir the veggies and cook them around just for about 5 minutes. So I'm gonna turn the heat down just a tiny bit because I'm gonna add some fresh garlic and fresh thyme. And I'm using good old ground beef, nothing fancy at all. I cook this until the meat is totally browned. I need another 5 minutes for that. On the page, you can see the veggies and the meat. And now it's time to turn this meat and veggie mixture into a sauce. So this is the cheat ingredient I promised you. And use a couple of jars of good marinara sauce. And this probably cuts a good hour, hour and a half off of the cooking process, which is great by me because that means we can eat sooner. If you think this looks delicious now, just wait until it simmers for 20 minutes. I basically cut a squash in half, scraped out the seeds, and then I drizzled it with olive oil and salt and pepper, and I roasted them face down. And then you just take a fork and just keep scraping until all of the goodness inside comes loose from the big rind. So I'm gonna put the first one on, and then I'm gonna do the exact same thing to the second squash. Here comes the sauce, Paigey. I'm gonna go on the first one first. I love the flavor of spaghetti squash. Okay, and then lots of Parmesan, just like you would if this was on spaghetti, just a big spaghetti and meat sauce dish. And then I've already got some big leaves of basil that I tore in pieces. I mean, stop the presses. This is absolutely gorgeous. I love sweet potato soup, but to use purple sweet potatoes is an absolute revelation. First of all, they're delicious, but second, they're just a glorious, deep purple color, and they make the most beautiful soup. And this is one of those soups that you can make for company or just for your kids on a weeknight. I just fried bacon in a big Dutch oven, and then I took the bacon out of the pan. So into the same pot, I added sliced red onion, some minced garlic, oregano and thyme, and I'm just stirring it around. Oh, it smells so incredible. And look at this pan, Paige. Look at the bottom of this pan. Look at all that flavor in there.
Yum.
Now that is the start of a delicious soup right there. Okay, so now I'm gonna add the purple sweet potatoes, AKA purple yams. You can find these really in specialty grocery stores year round, or like regular supermarkets sometimes get them in the fall. I love any root vegetable soup, and so you could actually use all sweet potatoes, or you could use sweet potatoes and turnips or parsnips. You could sort of do a root vegetable celebration. I like going all purple. It just kind of drives that point home. So I've got the potatoes and the onions all mixed together. So I'm going to cook this mixture for 3 minutes. Alrighty. So those have kind of had a chance to start cooking. So I'm gonna add some cumin, yummy, yummy with sweet potato soup. And coriander, another great fall spice, and some salt and pepper. And then I'll give it a quick stir just so the spices kind of coat the potatoes and the onions. My gosh, I love this soup. So I'm gonna add the broth. I'm using vegetable broth. And you can use chicken broth if you're not interested in it being like vegetarian. I just picked vegetable because usually when I make like a root vegetable soup, I'll use vegetable broth. But any kind of broth will do. So 1 carton plus a cup or so. Okay, give it one more stir. And now we just have to be patient. I'm gonna crank up the heat, bring this to a boil, and let it cook for 15 minutes, and then I'll finish it up. Okay, the soup's just about done, so I'm going to make an incredible topping that is part of the wonder of the soup, and it's part of what makes it so pretty too. So the bacon that I cooked in the pot, right from the top, I'm chopping it up, and it's gonna be part of the topping. Okay, so I've got a little bowl and I'm gonna put the bacon in the bowl. And then I have some other things to add to the bacon. Pistachios, chopped pistachios, they're so pretty. And then chopped parsley and chopped oregano. And then a little bit of turmeric. A little goes a long way, so don't go overboard. And then I'll get a little spoon and stir it together. But you could do any combination of herbs and nuts.
That looks so good.
It does look good, doesn't it? All right, so now back to the soup. Time to puree. So look at this first page. I'll show you what it looks like. See those sweet potatoes? They're pretty much falling apart, and that's the stage that you want to get it to before you puree. So I'm going to use an immersion blender. That way I don't have to take it out of the pot. Wish me luck. I'm going in. All right. Paige, come take a look at this. Did I promise you purple soup or what?
Wow.
Isn't that pretty? But it's not like obnoxious purple. It's like beautiful, deep, earthy purple. Okay, so I'm gonna show you how pretty it is to serve. Plain bowl. I'm gonna fill it with the soup. And you don't actually have to fill the bowl because that would be a lot of soup.
That really is purple.
It's
Super
pretty,
purple.
isn't it? All right. Ooh, that looks good. And then a little bit of sour cream. Ooh. And then the moment Paige has been waiting for. Okay. Just a little sprinkle. Isn't that pretty?
Oh, that's so pretty.
Gorgeous. I love it. This soup is delicious. Sweet potato and mushroom carbonara. I have a skillet going, and come look at these mushrooms, Paige. I cooked the sliced mushrooms in a little bit of bacon grease. I sauteed the bacon earlier, and then I cooked the mushrooms. So now I'm gonna move forward with the carbonara sauce, and I'm adding, what is this, garlic? Adding garlic and a pinch of crushed red pepper flakes and some salt. I'm holding my sleeve, don't be concerned. And pepper. And then I'll start stirring it around until I smell that garlic. It happened. It happened, it's happening. It's gonna happen. Good stuff. Okay, so when everything's sizzling, I've got some baby kale. And you can also use baby spinach. The baby kale kind of stays together a little bit better, in my opinion. Okay, so look at this mixture, Paige. How good does this look?
Yummy.
Delicious. All right, so now it's time for the noodles. So I'm gonna get this whole bunch, and it looks like a lot, but it was only like 3 sweet potatoes. That's what I love about spiralizing vegetables. Whether it's zucchini or carrots or sweet potatoes, it kind of grows as you go. Did you guys register for a spiralizer for your wedding?
We actually didn't. I have one.
Oh, you,
Look at that.
that's no fun.
I make zoodles all the time.
Okay, and then I'm gonna pour in some water, which is gonna help make the noodles a little bit tender. Now, some people boil noodles like this, sweet potato or zucchini noodles. I always find that that just makes them fall apart more easily. I like to cook them really gently in a skillet with the rest of the sauce ingredients. I just find they stay together better. And you don't want to just stir and go crazy. You want to treat it with care. So I'm going to sit here and babysit the sweet potato noodles until they start to get tender. And then I'll turn this skillet into carbonara. It's gonna rock your ever-loving world. Okay, the sweet potato noodles are tender. Look at this, Paige. They look fantastic. I can tell they still have some structure to them. They aren't totally falling apart, and that's good. Now I'm gonna turn off the heat, and I'm going to grab the 4 eggs in a mason jar, whisk them together, and then I'm gonna add some Parmesan, make a mess in the process. I'll add some salt and pepper, and then come look at this page. So this mixture is gonna go into the really hot skillet of sweet potato noodles. And if we play our cards right, it's gonna turn into sweet potato noodle carbonara pasta something or other.
Hopefully it's not scrambled.
No, you can't. You don't scramble it. You just pour slowly and toss the whole time. And the idea is that the hot water and the heat of the sweet potato noodles will create sort of this thick coating for the noodles, and it just turns into heaven, if you ask me. Okay? And when it's regular pasta, you just want to toss pretty constantly, and you don't want the eggs to scramble, and actually the Parmesan kind of helps with that. Okay, there's such a fine line between the sauce being lovely and glossy and thick, and then suddenly scrambled eggs showing up. So here we go. Oh, hold on. I didn't cut those quite short enough. And you can see little bits here and there. It doesn't mean it's scrambled eggs. It means it's the Parmesan in the egg mixture. So I'll sprinkle the top with some of the bacon. Yum, yum, and then some extra parm. Oh my gosh, this looks so good. And then of course, plenty of parsley. This looks incredible, absolutely gorgeous, and so very easy. As long as you have a spiralizer and don't scramble your eggs. Yum. Should I take a bite?
Take a bite.
I think I should take a bite.
Take a bite.
Sweet potato noodles, here we go. Oh,
Slurp it up.
watch this. Have scissors nearby. When the last of the kids finally left the house and Lad and I became empty nesters, I had to get used to quite a few things. I had to get used to less laundry, fewer groceries, less chaos. It was very, very quiet there at the start. Another thing I've had to get used to is just cooking for 2 people. It's been a little bit of a bumpy ride, but I finally have a nice bunch of recipes for 2 that I want to share with you. I'm going to start with Apple Cider Pork Chops. These are so delicious, perfect for any weeknight, really packed with flavor and gorgeous color too. So I just have 4 very thin breakfast chops, and I'm making a super simple breading. All I added to the dish was a little bit of flour and some barbecue rub seasoning. And it's just amazing how little flour it takes for this recipe. I have a skillet with just a little bit of oil and butter, and I'm gonna dredge these pork chops one by one, and I'll just put them straight into the skillet. It's on about medium heat. And this is just a nice light breading. It gives you a little bit of breading, but it doesn't just weigh it down like a really heavy chicken fried steak type breading. And these pork chops are so thin that they're gonna cook really quickly, which is nice. Gone are the days when I would have to make, say 18, 24 pork chops a night. When Bryce, Jamar, and Todd were all home in high school playing football, it was like I couldn't make enough pork chops. And now I know that Lad and I both can eat 2 each at the most. If we're lucky, we may even have a little bit left over for lunch the next day. This empty nest life is hilarious. Okay, the pork chops are in the skillet. So I just need to let them cook for about 2 minutes per side since they're so thin, and then I'll take them out of the pan. The pork chops cook really fast. 2 minutes is all it takes. Then I'll flip them over, give them the same time on the other side, and take them out onto a pan. Now this is a 1-pan meal, so I'm gonna add some potatoes to the mix, and I have these teeny tiny baby potatoes, and I cut them in half so they would cook even faster. And I'm just pouring them into the skillet without cleaning it because there's so much flavor in that skillet with the pork chops and that barbecue seasoning. And then I'll sprinkle over some sliced red onion. You can do regular yellow onion if that's what you have. I think red onion is particularly pretty. And I also have some sliced garlic cloves, so I'll sprinkle those over. And plenty of rosemary. Okay, now it's a little tough, but I need to let the potatoes cook without stirring them. I'm just gonna let that go for a couple of minutes. Okay, the potatoes are sizzling away, so I am gonna go ahead and start stirring, and then the onions will have a chance to cook. Oh my gosh. Now, even though this is a meal for two, I used a pretty big pan because I wanted there to be enough of that surface area so I could sprinkle all the potatoes in. All right, so I'm gonna move on with some liquid. These are apple cider pork chops, so the apple cider goes in first, and the natural sugars in the apple cider are gonna start to kind of cook and caramelize. Oh my gosh, that smells so good. And just a little bit of chicken stock to give it a little more liquid. If you wanted to, you could add some white wine or even something like a little hit of whiskey, bourbon. Any kind of booze would be really, really good in this. All right, and then I have some balsamic glaze, and I'll just squeeze in a good tablespoon or two. And that just kind of adds that deep, rich balsamic tanginess, and the sweetness from the glaze also helps a lot too. You know, this skillet was so hot, and it's big enough that the sauce is already really starting to reduce. If you need to give it a couple of minutes to thicken and reduce a little bit, just go right ahead. Everything will still be delicious. All right, that has reduced by about half. So I'm gonna make this even more scrumptious by adding a little bit of heavy cream. I'll just pour it here, there, and everywhere. The cream is optional. If you want the dish to be less creamy, just leave it out. I love dishes like this, just one-pan meals where you can decide which direction to take it. The basic recipe is delicious no matter what direction you go. Okay, now one last thing, a little hit of green. I've got some spinach leaves, and at this point, the sauce is pretty much cooking. You just want to stir it around long enough for the spinach to wilt about halfway. I like to serve it when the spinach is still kind of just halfway wilted, and that way it's not totally mushy. Okay, ooh, this looks so pretty. I love this dish. So much flavor going on. I think I'm gonna sprinkle in a little bit of pepper, just for fun. Now, truth be told, on any given night, Lad would be more than happy if I just made a cheeseburger or a steak. But I would lose interest quick if I had to make a steak or a burger every single night. So I love dishes like this that they kind of cross the protein off the list. Lad loves pork chops, but it also satisfies my need for flavor and texture and color. All right, looks fantastic. So I'm gonna turn the heat off and get the pork chops. And I'm just gonna nestle them in, or you can put them straight on the plates and spoon the sauce over and alongside. You can sort of push the ingredients all around the chops. But how pretty is this? You can even take a little balsamic, just decorate it a little bit. All right, and finally, a sprinkle of parsley. I love this dish. It's beautiful. It's elegant. It's just enough for Lad and me. In terms of starting a new era in my cooking life, dinners like this are definitely gonna excite me. Butternut squash and kale pasta. I'm gonna put the pasta in to boil, and I'm using bucatini, but you can use any pasta you want, and that really is the case with every pasta dish I make. Just walk into your pantry or open your pantry door, look at the pasta possibilities. You can even put a blindfold on and just pick one. That's how versatile this recipe is. So I just added some pancetta to a skillet with olive oil and butter. And the reason this is a PDQ recipe is I'm using butternut squash that was already prepped, and I got this in the produce section of the supermarket, which is a revelation because if anyone has ever cooked with a butternut squash and prepped it from scratch, you know how long it takes. It can be a bit of a pain. So I'm adding some chopped red onion. So pancetta, butternut squash, red onion, olive oil, butter. Look how delicious this looks already. So now I've just got to let this cook for about 8 minutes. The butternut squash is starting to soften and get little brown edges, and that pancetta is getting sort of crispy. I love pancetta, which is basically
Bacon.
an Italian bacon. So it has delicious flavor. It's not quite as like strong and smoky and bacony as the bacon we know. So it's great for a pasta dish like this. Okay, moving on to the next stage of the pasta sauce. I'm gonna add some garlic and fresh thyme and sun-dried tomatoes. I love this sauce because it's not heavy, but it does have a lot of wonderful, luscious ingredients. Look at that, how yummy. So now the next little stage of ingredients, bagged kale. This has already been torn, washed, loved on, hugged, so it's ready to go. And then I'm gonna go ahead and add Parmesan cheese on top of the kale. I'm gonna save a little bit for the top, for the garnish, as we like to say in the Drummond Ranch kitchen. Okay, so Paigey, as you can see, the kale is kind of starting to wilt a little bit. But what I love about kale is it doesn't really wilt very fast. Like if you use spinach, you just have basically a couple minutes before it really wilts. So the pasta goes in. Oh, I forgot to add wine.
Yeah, I was wondering.
I'm just gonna add it now because there's no way I'm gonna let this go. Listen. Ooh. It's the sound of sin and deliciousness right there. And then I'm gonna add pasta water. Usually you would add the wine after you add the kale and Parmesan. So it's okay to add it a little bit late. Better late than never, right guys?
That's right.
Okay, so now I'm gonna turn the heat down and start stirring this together. And you still wanna cook it a little bit so that wine and pasta water kind of starts to thicken. And look, oh my word. So the last thing I'm gonna add, I think it's the last thing, you never know with me. I'm gonna squeeze in some lemon just to brighten things up. To me, there's just nothing about this dish that isn't perfect. I would make this for myself on a Monday night, a Tuesday afternoon, a Saturday morning. You didn't laugh enough. Okay, and then some black pepper. So then I've got some toasted pine nuts and I'm gonna sprinkle them over. And all I did was just put pine nuts in a dry skillet over kind of medium heat and just shook the skillet around for about 5 minutes, and it kind of makes them light and golden. And there we go. This is where I start to lose track. Parmesan cheese and torn basil. Look. Hello, hello, hello. You wanna make me happy? Just make me this any day of the week. A butternut squash pasta casserole. It is so hearty and delicious. So to keep things easy, I'm adding a bag of butternut squash from the freezer. You can totally use fresh instead. And then in addition to the squash, I'm gonna add a quart of chicken broth, low sodium, and I'm cranking the heat because I want this to cook until the butternut squash is totally tender. This is a very fall-friendly recipe, but since you can buy butternut squash in the freezer section of the grocery store year-round, you can totally make this whenever you want. Whenever you want. Salt and pepper. Okay, so the butternut squash is gonna cook for 5 minutes until it's soft. Watch the magic happen. I'm gonna turn this into a squashy liquid, which is kind of strange. It doesn't sound all that good, but trust me. And you can puree it as much or as little as you want to. You can make it a totally smooth puree, or it can be sort of a chunky puree. I like things with some texture. All right, just about done. I see some chunks of butternut in there, but I'm gonna leave them because I think it'll make the casserole more interesting. Okay, so This is so cool because I'm actually gonna pull this casserole together in the casserole pan. So I already cooked some penne, and watch this. This is basically the liquid for the casserole, but it's kind of like butternut squash mac and cheese, you know? It's gonna be delicious, trust me.
It's gonna be great.
Okay, and then I've got a few things to add. Some roasted red pepper, frozen peas,
Wow.
and goat cheese. It kind of combines with the butternut squash, and oh my gosh, the texture and the consistency of this casserole is amazing. Stirring it right in the casserole dish. And this pasta was actually kind of cooked to not quite al dente, so the extra liquid in the casserole will keep the casserole from becoming dry when it bakes, because the pasta is gonna keep absorbing some of that liquid. Ooh, so pretty so far. Now this is a really cool little ingredient to add. I grated cauliflower. So instead of using like a breadcrumb or something, I'm doing cauliflower, and that makes it more veggie forward, more healthy. And then on top of the cauliflower, just for a little extra flavor, some salt and pepper. I love this casserole, and I love casseroles that you can assemble right in the pan. I don't have a whole bunch of different bowls that I'm mixing in. All right, now I've got a whole bunch of mozzarella, since Paige was quick to point out that there wasn't enough cheese in this casserole. And then Parmesan, of course, on top of the mozzarella. Tons of different ingredients going on, but they're all very simple. And then parsley, and I'll save a little bit to sprinkle on at the end. I think this is gonna be amazing. What do you think?
I think so.
All right, let's get this in the oven. We're gonna bake it at 375 degrees for 40 to 45 minutes, and I am so sorry that you have to wait that long. Oh, actually, you don't have to wait that long. Look, 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 look.
Wow.
Oh my gosh. That looks incredible. Check it out, you guys.
Wow. All that cheese.
Wow, it looks so good. I think we need to serve it.
Yes.
I think we need
Yes,
to
cut into it.
try it. I think we
Yeah.
need to enjoy it.
Can I try?
Yeah, are you excited to try this, Paige?
I just love goat cheese.
All right, Alex.
Come on, gotta get sliced cam or scoop cam.
Oh dear.
Oh my
Oh,
gosh.
nice.
It's
That
basically,
is amazing.
this is basically mac and cheese that took a trip around the world or something. Here, Paige, I'll let you try.
So excited. Okay, one bite review. Trying to get all the good stuff.
One bite review.
Whoa,
One
look
bite.
at that.
Oh, it smells so good. That was really good.
Really good. Ball chicken skillet. So I just cooked some pieces of pancetta so that I could get some of that beautiful grease going in this skillet. So I'm gonna turn the heat up just a little bit. And for this chicken skillet, I am using my absolute favorite cut of chicken thighs, and not just any chicken thighs. Chicken thighs with the bone in, the skin on, the works. Nothing better in the world. So I'm gonna make a seasoning mix with cumin, smoked paprika. I just wanted to make sure I had the right stuff. And salt and pepper, and stir it together. And then I've got the skin side up, so I'm gonna start by seasoning the first side of the chicken thighs. Don't be alarmed if that gets a little bit smoky. You want it to be hot, because I'm gonna put it skin side down. Okay, I am gonna get this chicken in. You know what I love about chicken thighs is that they're actually cheaper than chicken breasts. And I have never understood that because they're so much more delicious. All right, so I'm taking the rest of this seasoning mix and sprinkling it over the second side. So I am gonna cook this chicken for probably 3 or 4 minutes on the first side, and then I'll turn it over and do another couple of minutes on the second side. So I'm gonna add to the skillet red onions and garlic. And then I have a mixture of sage, rosemary, and thyme that's finely minced. So I'm gonna just give it a stir and let that garlic really start to cook. I could just stand over this mixture forever. So I've got some other veggies to add. Brussels sprouts, raise your hand if you love them, cauliflower, and butternut squash, which, I mean, when I started cooking, you had to get like a chainsaw to bust into a butternut squash and prep it yourself. Now you can just buy prepped butternut squash in the produce section. So to this mixture, not that I'm complaining, of course, added some salt and pepper. All right, I'm gonna cook these veggies for about 3 minutes. Don't go away. I'll be so lonely. So the stove goes off and the chicken thighs go on. And here's what happens. So you put the chicken thighs on top of the veggies, and this is gonna go in the oven, and basically the fat from the chicken and the juices just kind of trickle over the gorgeous veggies, and so the flavor when this is all done is through the roof. And you definitely want to make sure you get all of that juice in there from the plate. So before this goes back in the oven, I'm gonna top the chicken with a little bit more of the chopped herbs. And we're gonna go to the oven. I have a little surprise for you.
Ooh.
I bet you can't guess what it is.
Whatever could it be?
First of all, get a look at this before it goes in the oven.
Wow.
The chicken's not fully cooked, so it finishes cooking on top of the veggies. So this goes into a 375-degree oven for about 25-30 minutes, and this is what it looks like. It looks about the same.
Oh my gosh, no.
But everything's done. So I'm gonna show you how to serve this. I did a little swap just because I thought it'd be fun. And I actually am gonna get in there and show you like just the beautiful veggies underneath, and just they're coated in that gorgeous chicken flavor. One more teeny little sprinkle of the herbs. You don't want to go overboard with them at this point because we have a lot in the dish. Balsamic glaze.
Yep.
You're kidding.
Yep.
I just think it adds kind of a little touch of elegance. And pomegranate seeds, which again, you can buy these in little deli containers in the produce section. Just kind of sweet and tart little nuggets. And then last but not least, I would never, ever let this pancetta go to waste.
Oh yeah.
So here's what you do. You serve the individual portions onto plates, and then everybody can grab a roll and like dab in the pan. Very veggie soup. So I've got a pot with some butter, and I actually heated it until it got to the brown stage, and I'm gonna add some onions, and then I have a bowl full of root veggies that I peeled and chopped. Carrots, parsnips, turnips, and rutabagas, and then some ginger and garlic, whole garlic cloves. And then I'm gonna stir these around just to coat them. I'm not gonna have to cook them at this stage. I just wanna kind of get the veggies coated in that delicious brown butter mixture. Sprinkle some salt and pepper. Perfect, and now I'm gonna add the broth. I've got 2 big honkin' cartons of chicken broth. You can also use veggie broth if you wanna keep it truly vegetarian. 2 spices. I've got some allspice and ground coriander, sprig of thyme. Stir all of this together. All right, now I'm just gonna bring it to a quick boil, and then I'll turn it down to a simmer, put the lid on, and let it cook for 20 minutes until the vegetables are totally soft. Okay, the soup has been simmering. It's just about ready to puree, but first I'm gonna fry some shallots that I'm gonna use to serve over the top of the soup. So I've just got some vegetable oil and very thinly sliced shallots. I peeled the shallots and sliced them. And now I'm just gonna fry them in vegetable oil until they're golden brown, and then I'll take them out of the oil and drain them on a paper towel. Look at these beautiful fried shallots. Absolutely incredible topper for soup. All those vegetables have been cooking away, and I'm glad I did that because I'm gonna pull out the thyme. It has done its job. So I'm gonna turn off the stove and I'm gonna puree the soup. Now, you don't have to puree it, you can keep it pretty chunky, but in the fall, I just love pureed vegetable soups. In the fall, I just love any soup, to be honest. And look at the color of this soup now. So pretty.
That's so pretty.
And look, I love this. Every now and then you get like a chunk of carrot that got missed. But it's kind of like a little treasure hunt that way. And this soup is pretty rich and filling, so a little goes a long way. Okay, so speaking of garnish, I'm gonna get some of these beautiful shallots. Take a look, Kate. And the great thing about shallots is they're so light and like thin and lightweight that they just kind of hover on top. And then I've got some beautiful parsley. Alrighty, very veggie soup. The last thing Hyacinth needs is to worry about cooking dinner every Friday night. So I'm gonna whip up some yummy beef stew with cheddar cheese grits for Hyacinth, and that way she won't have to think about dinner at all. I've got 2 pots going because I'm actually gonna make one for Hyacinth's family and one for mine. I'm gonna brown the meat first. I got a chuck roast and cut it into big cubes. I actually haven't told Hyacinth that I'm making dinner for her. I'm just gonna run in and pick up Alex like I always do and then spring dinner on her at the last minute. Okay, the meat's nice and brown, so I'm gonna go ahead and take it out of the pot. It's by no means cooked. It looks like it is, but in the stew, it's gonna simmer for a couple of hours and this chuck roast gets so tender. I'm gonna add an onion to each pot. The pot is nice and brown. It has a lot of bits from the meat in there. And then I'm gonna add about 3 cloves of chopped garlic to each pot. All right, now I'll just stir the onions and garlic around a bit. The pots are so hot, they're almost translucent already, so I really just need to cook them for about a minute. So I'm just gonna take a break and grab a couple beers. It's been a long day. Just kidding. I'm gonna add the beer to the stew. This gives the stew really great flavor. So I'm just gonna add 32 ounces of beef stock to each pot. Now to the pots, I'm just gonna add a few dashes of Worcestershire. Worcestershire always adds a nice savoriness, a little bit of richness. Then I'm just gonna add a little bit of tomato paste to each pot. Gives it a little bit of a tang, gives the sauce a little bit of richness. So good. And I like to add paprika to the stew also. It gives it a great flavor, but it also kind of helps with the color. And then I'll add a little bit of sugar to each pot. Now the last thing I need to do in this stage is add the meat into the pot. So I'll just slide half into this one and half into this one. Okay, now I'll just stir the meat in, make sure it's all combined. And then all I need to do now is be patient. I'm gonna put the lids on the pot, turn the heat down, let the beef stew simmer for about an hour and a half, and then I'll put the root vegetables in, let it simmer until it's done. And Hyacinth is gonna be so happy. All right, the beef stew's been simmering away for about an hour and a half, and now it's time to add in the vegetables. I gotta tell you, oh, this smells so delicious. I smell everything, the beer, the broth. Now, I've got 2 carrots for each pot. And then I also have 2 parsnips for each pot. And then I have 1 turnip, and that's enough for both pots. So about a half a turnip per pot. Now, I didn't want to add these at the beginning because the vegetables would be pretty much disintegrated. So this is the perfect time to add them. Let them simmer for about 30 minutes till the veggies are nice and tender. The last thing I'm gonna do is thicken up the cooking liquid a little bit. I'll drizzle in some beef stock into 3 tablespoons of flour, and I just wanna make a really, really smooth, pretty thin paste. Now I'll just add a little bit into each pot. And then it's gonna keep bubbling just for about 10 minutes or so, and it's gonna make the stew just perfect and rich and thick. I'm hungry.